Welcome to week 2 class. This week we're going to be learning a little bit about HTML, and I thought we'd start off the week with a few screencasts to try to help get you guys a little bit of some visual, all you visual learners out there, a little help. So we're going to talk a little bit about HTML, but before we get started, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about making sure that your computer is set up for what we're going to be doing. If you remember back reading the syllabus, there was a section that talked a little bit about the required software or the suggested software. And the two things that we suggest were a good text editor and Google Chrome. Really what we need you to have at this point is a web browser of any type and a text editor with syntax highlighting, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that is. But if you download on Windows Notepad++ and Text Wrangler on Mac OS, and if you're a Linux user, you can use whatever you want. Cite is one we recommend there. But Notepad++ is not the same Notepad that you already find on your Windows operating system, not the one that comes with it. This is a separate one. If you click on it, you'll be taken to the website that has this little chameleon on it where you can download and install Notepad++ with this download button there and get that up and running on your Windows machine. On a Macintosh, similar process. I'd go get Text Wrangler. It's the free version of its bigger brother BB Edit, which is also a very good text editor. But the main thing that we're interested in is that it has text editing and a few other features. I'm going to give you the basics of why we want you to be using these text editors. And here's my instance of Notepad++. Notice already that it looks very different from the version of Notepad that you may already have on Windows. I have the ability to open up multiple tabs here. I can have multiple things open at any given time. This is great. You notice they create a new tab. I just click on that. It opens up a new file. The first thing that I'd recommend that when you start a new project is that you save it as an HTML file. Now, the HTML file extension is extremely important. It tells Notepad++ and Text Wrangler what type of a file it is so that it can do the text syntax highlighting. And it also enables it so that it's really easy to open and test your files in a browser. Your browser just knows what to do with HTML files. Basically, when you're browsing the internet, every web page you go to is more or less just pulling HTML files from some remote location down to your computer for your browser to display. So we're going to save this as an HTML file. So we'll call this my assignment. Now we have a couple options here. I can just add the .html to this, or I can come in here to the Save As Type and look for Hypertext Markup Language file. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So if you choose that, notice it adds the .html for you, and then you can just hit Save, and you're good to go. Now, just to show you what syntax highlighting is, I'm going to go ahead and copy in some HTML, an HTML template I've already got put together. Notice inside this text editor, it's nothing special, right? It looks just like any other text editor you may have seen, Notepad or whatever. It's just black text inside of a white box. That's great because, yeah, nothing fancy there. If we come over to this HTML file that we've already created, Notepad++ knows this is HTML, so because of such, it can look for certain pieces inside of that HTML file that it recognizes and color them in certain ways to make your code more readable, easier to do things. And as we talk a little bit about HTML throughout this screencast, we're going to talk a little bit more about the features of it. But the main point is you need to save it as an HTML file, and that file is the file that you're going to upload to your peers in the peer reviews. You're going to upload them to me at the end of the week in your final submission, and it makes it real easy for your peers and for me to be able to just open up in the browser of our choice and look at it. Now that I've said that, let's go ahead and take a minute to talk a little bit about how you're going to preview these HTML files as you work on them. So the easiest way to do it from within Notepad++ is just go up to the Run option up here, and you can launch it in any of the browsers that you may have installed on your computer. I'm going to go ahead and launch this one in Chrome, and you notice it opened it up, myassignment.html right there. and notice it's blank because we haven't put any real HTML inside this yet. All the stuff that you saw on the screen before was just kind of all of the framework to get your HTML page started. Um, so we're going to go ahead, save this once we've got our stuff in there. One thing that we'll do real quick is we'll just change the title to My First Assignment, if I can spell it right. Got a couple problems in there. And then notice when I save it, when I make changes, Notepad++ makes a little red thing up there, and when I save it, it goes back to blue. It's one tip to know when you've saved it. If it's saved, you can go back over to your browser and refresh, and you can see any changes you've made. Notice the title changed because I made a change, called it something, and then saved it. And then from here on out, anything you add into the body, and we'll go into a little more depth on the body a little later on, and the different parts of HTML, but I just wanted to show you how to preview. So I've got hello in the body. If I go back and refresh, you'll notice it shows hello. Let's go over real quick a couple of other ways that you can preview your stuff if you aren't using Notepad++. Typically, one way you can do things is you can grab a file and drag it directly into your browser, and if you drop it, it'll open it. Say, let me grab a new tab just so you can see the difference, and I dropped it in there. Notice when we open a file this way, it doesn't look normal, or at least not what you're used to. Basically, instead of referencing a remote location like www.byui.edu, you're referencing a local file. And so that's all that this is up here. It's just saying I'm grabbing a local file called myassignment.html, and here's the path to get there. So that's one way. Many browsers also have the option to, there's an open file dialog. In Chrome, they don't make it too easy to find. I don't see it anywhere in here, right, in my file menu. And so in Chrome, if you just remember Control O, it'll do the open file dialog, and you can come in and just open the file. So depending on the browser you're in, it might behave a little differently. The last thing I wanted to show you real quick that I like to use is plugin. Now, Notepad++ has a really neat feature called plugins that does different things to text. We don't have to worry too much about it, but I want to show you one plugin that I like to use. And in order to install a plugin, you go to the Plugin Manager, and you look for the name of the plugin, and I'll give you the name of the plugin I use in a minute. And then you check the box next to the name and just hit install. You might have to restart Notepad++ after you do that, but that's not too big of a deal. The plugin I like to use is called Preview HTML, and what it does is it just brings in a little box off to the right that shows my stuff as I'm changing it. So I can come in and add some tags, and don't worry if you don't know what a tag is yet. We can talk a little bit about tags in the next screencast. And the main thing to notice that as I type, everything that I type is being, oh, I forgot that I use a closing tag. Everything that I type is being previewed on the right. And so that's another trick that you can do if you want to try to help save some time. But opening it in a browser is just as efficient, and especially if you have multiple monitors on your computer or a big monitor, you can have Notepad++ open on the left and your browser open on the right, and just refresh it as you go. It's not that big of a deal. It's pretty simple too. So there's that. There's kind of the basics of getting started, how to preview your HTML. And in the next screencast, we're going to talk a little bit more about the specifics of the HTML that you will be working on and learning this week. Hopefully what we've done just now will help get your environment set up and help you better able to follow along with the next screencast. So thank you.